All right, let's do this. We are about to dive into the single most interesting, complicated, and important subject in the entire world, which is you. Yeah, you. Think of this as the missing user manual for your own brain. I mean, seriously, have you ever just stopped and thought, why did I just do that? Why can't I stop scrolling through my phone? Why do I feel this way all of a sudden? Look, these aren't just random thoughts. They are the whole entire point of psychology. So what is psychology, really? Well, at its core, it's just the science of figuring out what makes us all tick. It's the official study of all the invisible stuff, your thoughts, your feelings, your memories, those weird habits, that secretly runs the show. Now, for thousands of years, people just kind of sat around and debated these big ideas. Philosophers, right? But then, in 1879, this one guy, Wilhelm Wundt, goes and opens the very first psychology lab. And just like that, boom, the study of the mind went from just talk to an actual science, with real experiments and data. Okay, first up, let's talk about how your brain gets programmed. Because, and I hate to break it to you, whether you know it or not, you are constantly being trained by the world around you. Let's be real for a second. You hear that little ping, that notification sound, and you just react, don't you? Your hand is already moving towards your phone before you even think about it. If that sounds familiar, well, congratulations, you've been trained. And it all started with a guy named Pavlov and some drooling dogs. Pavlov's experiment was so simple, it was genius. Okay, look, before he starts, a bell is just a sound, right? It means nothing to a dog. But food makes the dog drool. That's natural. Then he started ringing the bell right before he brought out the food. Every single time. The dog's brain started building a connection, a little bridge. And after a while, just the sound of the bell was enough to make the dog drool. No food needed. The bell became the new trigger. And this is where it all makes sense. That notification sound, that's your bell. Your brain has learned that that specific sound means a potential reward is coming. A message, a like, a funny video. It's a possible little hit of dopamine. So you react automatically, just like the dog. You have been classically conditioned by your own phone. Okay, but that doesn't explain everything. What about the habits that feel even more powerful? You know, the ones where you know you should stop, but you just keep going? Just one more minute, one more level, one more scroll. For that, we need to talk about B.F. Skinner. So Skinner figured out that how you get rewards is absolutely crucial. And the most powerful, the most addictive pattern is something called a variable ratio schedule. All that means is you get a reward after a random, unpredictable number of tries. It's the engine that runs every slot machine in Vegas, and it is the exact same thing that makes your social media feed and video game loot boxes so impossible to put down. Your brain gets hooked on the maybe, the possibility that the very next tap could be the one. So we know how our habits get trained from the outside. But what about all this stuff going on inside? You know, deep under the hood, the things you don't even know are there. This was the total obsession of probably the most famous and, yeah, most controversial name in psychology, Sigmund Freud. Freud's biggest idea is actually super simple to picture. He said that your mind is like a giant iceberg. The part you're actually aware of, your conscious mind, that's just the tiny little tip you can see above the water. The real power, the real action, is happening in the massive part hidden deep underneath. So the conscious is whatever you're thinking about this very second. Right below the surface is the pre-conscious. That's stuff you could think about if you wanted to, like what you had for breakfast. But the huge, deep, dark part, that's the unconscious. And according to Freud, that's where all your buried fears, your secret desires, and your primal urges live. And that hidden part is secretly pulling the strings on almost everything you do. And inside that iceberg mind of yours, there's this constant battle going on between three parts. Just picture a classic cartoon. You've got the id, the little devil on your shoulder, who's just screaming, I want it, and I want it now. Then you've got the superego, the little angel on the other shoulder, whispering, ooh, you shouldn't do that, that's wrong. And stuck right in the middle is the ego, which is basically you, the referee who's just trying to find a realistic way to make them both happy. So we've got these forces battling it out inside our own heads. But what about the forces outside? Let's talk about the invisible but crazy powerful pull of other people. Let me ask you a question, straight up. Imagine you're in a group and every single person starts saying something that is clearly, obviously, 100% wrong. What do? Most of us like to think, oh, I'd totally stick to my guns. But the science says something very, very different. So this guy, Solomon Ash, set up this exact situation. He put people in a room and gave them a super easy vision test. Just match a line to one of 3 other lines. Simple. But here's the catch. Only one person in the room was a real participant. Everyone else was an actor. After a couple of easy rounds, the actors all started giving the same blatantly wrong answer. The real subject is just sitting there, faced with a choice. Do I trust my own eyes, or do I just go with the group? The results were pretty wild. 75%. Let that sink in for a second. 75% of people conformed to the group's obviously wrong answer at least once. 3 out of every 4 people caved to peer pressure, instead of just saying what they saw with their own 2 eyes. The need to fit in is a powerful, powerful thing. Okay, so going along with a wrong answer on a line test, that's one thing, but let's raise the stakes, like way up. Would you obey an order from someone in charge if it meant you had to actually hurt another person? Again, almost everyone says, no way, absolutely not. Well, Stanley Milgram wanted to find out for sure. In his incredibly famous experiment, people were told they were the teacher, and they had to deliver electric shocks to a learner in another room every time he got a question wrong. The shocks weren't real, of course, but the teacher didn't know that. With every mistake, the voltage went up. The actor in the other room would scream in fake pain, even complain about a heart condition, but the guy in the lab coat would just calmly say, the experiment requires that you continue. So how many people went all the way? How many of them delivered the final massive 450-volt shock, which was labeled XXX, danger, severe shock? A shocking 65%. Almost 2/3 of regular, ordinary people obeyed an authority figure to the point where they thought they were inflicting extreme pain on a total stranger. Okay, drooling dogs, icebergs, electric shock experiments, I get it. You're probably sitting there thinking, what does any of this have to do with my actual life? The answer? Absolutely everything. This stuff is why that notification sound hooks you. It's why that game is so addictive you can't put it down. It's why sometimes you feel an urge to do something and you have no idea where it came from. And it's why peer pressure feels so incredibly real and hard to resist. Knowing the why behind all of this, understanding the hidden rules of your own brain, it gives you the power to see what's happening and make your own choices. And that brings us to the end of our little session today. Look, if you remember just one big idea from all of this, please let it be this. Psychology isn't just another class. It's literally the operating system for the human mind. And learning it, that's like somebody finally handing you the admin password. It gives you the power to understand not just other people, but the most complex and important person you'll ever know, yourself. Now go use that power.